Hola a todos, ¿cómo estamos? A ver, a ver. I'm going to try that again. I'm hoping that my microphone is working correctly and that we are all set to go. We're just going to go live in just a few minutes, but I'm just making sure that everything is working okay. Let us know where you are watching from. Let us know how long you've been learning Spanish for. We're going to be talking about the Coffee Break Spanish Masterclass today, and I am really looking forward to spending some time with you and answering any questions that you may have. Okay, I'll be back in just a moment. Hola y buenos días a todos. Estoy muy contento de estar aquí con vosotros hoy. Yo soy Mark de Coffee Break Spanish. Yo soy el presentador de Coffee Break Spanish y pues en cada lección estoy con alguien para enseñaros el español. In our early seasons, I'm with Cara. In our later seasons, I'm with Alba or with Carmen. And of course, for our Coffee Break Spanish magazine, which is coming very soon, then we'll be getting to know a new presenter, and that is Fernanda. You may have heard Fernanda before in previous episodes, but we were recording some Coffee Break Spanish magazine today, so we're looking forward to getting started with that. But today, we are here to talk about the Coffee Break Spanish Masterclass. And the Coffee Break Spanish Masterclass is an intermediate course aimed at intermediate learners, and it's the course that you can work on over the next 6 months to improve your Spanish. And very importantly, this course is starting very soon. The course is in fact starting tomorrow, and we will be delighted to be working with a whole new class of October 2019 as we get started with the masterclass tomorrow. Now, let me know where you're watching. We are going live today on both YouTube and on Facebook, so on our Coffee Break Spanish Facebook page and on the Coffee Break Languages YouTube account. So we're on both places today, so let us know where we're watching. And we can indeed share our comments on the screen. So, yeah, we can share the comments on the screen. So if you want to say where you're watching from and what you're learning, well, obviously you're going to be learning Spanish if you're joining this. Let us know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions, of course, we will be happy to answer those questions here in the live broadcast. Now, I'm just going to check that everything is working. We had a little technical problem just before we got started, but I'm going to check that everything is working. You should be able to see my computer here, and we've got everything up on the YouTube page here, and I've got Facebook open as well. So yeah, I think everything seems to be working. So we are good to get started. So as I say, we're here to talk about the Coffee Break Spanish Masterclass. We put together the Coffee Break Spanish Masterclass in response to your questions, to the questions of intermediate learners who had worked through our Seasons 1 and 2 materials. So we've got Coffee Break Spanish Season 1 and Coffee Break Spanish Season 2, and to the learners who had worked through those materials, they wanted to take their learning that bit further. And it's a course that's running over 6 months, and it's starting tomorrow. And in this webinar, we're going to be looking at basically some of the question and answers that we have had. Well, some of the questions that we've had over the past 2 weeks since we launched the registration for the masterclass, and answering those questions in order to make sure that you know all you need to know about the Coffee Break Spanish Masterclass, and to help you decide whether it's something that you feel you would enjoy and find useful. So let us begin with our first question. And our first question is a very straightforward and very important one. What is the masterclass? Well, as I said, we asked a number of learners at an intermediate stage, what are the greatest challenges that you find as an intermediate learner of Spanish? And some of the questions, if you would like to answer this question now, please do post in the comments. Some of the comments that we had in response to this included things like, I need to be able to use verbs in different tenses, or I want to sound more like a native speaker. So when you're on the spot and you're having to speak and you're having to use your Spanish, then it's important to be able to think quickly and react and use the Spanish in an appropriate way. Some learners said they wanted to expand their vocabulary. They felt that they were confident with the materials that they had covered in their course. Perhaps if they were working through a book or attending a course, they were confident with those materials. But they wanted to take their learning that bit further and look at more vocabulary, and so they wanted to expand their vocabulary. Other learners mentioned things like the subjunctive and more complex grammar points. And the subjunctive is certainly something that lots of learners will have heard of, but perhaps don't necessarily know how to use it. So some learners wanted to use more complex grammar like that, and use it naturally in conversation, because ultimately when people are speaking in Spanish, they don't think about the fact that they're using the subjunctive or a particular tense, they just speak. And that's the sort of aim that we're all trying to get to as learners. We want to be able to use the language in a way that it sounds natural and doesn't sound as if we're looking for a particular word or phrase. So using the subjunctive or other language points is yet another thing that our learners pointed out. And other areas like more grammar points like por and para. So I always get mixed up with por and para, or I always get mixed up with que and cual. Different areas of the language different areas of the language which most learners find challenging. And in answer to all of these questions, we came up with the Coffee Break Spanish Masterclass. This is, as I said, an online course that lasts for 6 months. And there are 5 lessons per month. So every month you will get 5 lessons. And it's a course that very much focuses on structure and progression. So you can work through the course and you'll make progress as you work through the course. And also, when we're talking about structure and progression, I'm thinking of things like, for example, what is covered in lesson 1 will be picked up again in lesson 2 and lesson 3. And then by the time you get onto module 4, you'll be reviewing materials that you've covered in lessons or in modules 1, 2 and 3, but you'll also be introducing that new language, vocabulary and grammar when it comes to that point. So that is the structure and progression side of things. It is a course that features audio, video and text content. And there are interactive elements. So interactive elements in the sense of quizzes and homework activities. So we'll post homework activities for you to complete, and crucially we'll give you feedback on that, on your activities. So these are the interactive elements of the course, and there's also a test at the end. But we're still talking about something that you can complete if you've not got a huge amount of time. So if you've just got, say, 20 minutes 3 or 4 times a week, let's say 3 or 4 coffee breaks in the week, then you're still very able to complete the masterclass course. It's perfectly manageable in that kind of time scale. So let's move on to our next question. What are the dates of the masterclass? The dates of this masterclass are from October 2019 through to March 2020. And that means, yes, we do start tomorrow. Starting tomorrow, the 1st of October 2019. And the 1st of October 2019 is actually International Coffee Day. So it's a very appropriate day to get started. And it would definitely make sense to start the Coffee Break Masterclass on International Coffee Day. So that is tomorrow, the 1st of October. And that is the perfect date to get started. Let's move on to our next question. How often are the lessons published? Well, the lessons are published regularly. In fact, if we'll bring up a calendar, let's look at October as an example. So on the 1st of October, you would get lesson 1, and then after a couple of days on the 4th of October, you'd get lesson 2, and lesson 3 again on the 8th of October. But at that point, we don't. We actually pause for a moment. We don't start immediately with the next lesson. We go on to an exercise. So you get an exercise on the 11th, and then on the 15th of October, it's lesson 4, and on the 18th of October, lesson 5. So as you can see, all of the learning, the lessons, happen in the first half or so of the month. So by the 18th of the month, you've had those 5 lessons and an exercise. And then the remainder of the month is all about consolidation. So you're looking at consolidating what you've learned and using that to practice that, to take the learning that bit further. And when you're practicing what you've learned, you can do so with the help of our checklist, our video review, and also the checklist, the video review, and the exam, the test at the end of the month. Sorry, I was getting a little bit distracted there because I was getting a message on my computer saying that there was a problem, but I think we've sorted the problem. Okay, so let me see. This is the schedule for the month, and that is October 2019. And of course, that continues through November, December, January, February, March. Now, I realise that there are some questions coming in, and we will definitely answer these questions as we go through the broadcast. But I will work through the questions that we've got prepared for this broadcast first of all, and then we'll come to any other questions that come in as we go through. But please do post your questions in the chat, and I will be very happy to answer them. So our next question is, what content is covered? Well, the content that we've put together for the masterclass has 3 main elements. First of all, vocabulary, grammar, and expressions. So the idea is that we're helping you develop your vocabulary, your grammar, and your expressions. So building your range of expressions in Spanish, helping you develop your understanding of grammar, and increasing your vocabulary. But all of that goes in hand with 2 other elements: authenticity, which is absolutely crucial in language learning, and culture, because when you're learning a language, it's very important that you put that language into the context of the culture or cultures from the countries where the languages that you're learning are spoken. So this is the sort of 5 elements. These are the 5 elements of the masterclass, and they come up in each of the lessons. Let's take a closer look at the lessons now, because we've got each module provides content in a range of things. So, for example, module 1, we are looking at frases hechas. Frases hechas are idiomatic expressions. So you'll be developing a wider vocabulary through using these idiomatic expressions, both expressions used in Spain and the equivalents used in Latin America. All of this will be language and context, so you will be seeing that language in the context of conversations and dialogues featuring native speakers and a variety of native speakers from different parts of the Spanish-speaking world. So that is Module 1, which takes place in October on frases hechas. Module 2 in November looks at tricky verbs. So these are verbs, and I'm sure looking at this list of verbs, you'll be familiar with ser, estar, tener, dar, and hacer. But there are some tricky uses of these verbs that I'm guessing you'll probably not be familiar with. And in each lesson of this module, we go through those uses in great detail, helping you understand exactly how to use those verbs, and of course looking at them in different tenses. And at the end of the module, of course, you'll get your exercise, your activities, your review, and the module test. Moving on, our 3rd module in December looks at false friends. Now, this module is, in a sense, about taking the grammar that you've learned so far and then seeing that in more context, but also building your vocabulary and looking at false friends. And false friends are those words that you think you know what they mean because they look like words in English, but in actual fact you don't because they mean something completely different. So words such as actualmente, realizar, suceso, lectura, and many, many more words featured in the false friends episodes in Module 3, taking place in December. Moving on to Module 4 in January. In January, we'll be looking at tense mastery. So this is a very tense module. We'll be focusing on tense mastery and looking at helping you improve your knowledge of the preterite, the perfect and imperfect tenses in the past, mastering when to use which past tense, which can often be tricky, using the future and the conditional, and then also, of course, getting your exercise, your activities, your review, and your module test at the end of the lesson, at the end of the module. That's January. And then in February, we'll be moving on to the subjunctive. The subjunctive is a topic that lots of learners find quite tricky, find quite difficult, but it's actually not. And the purpose of this module will be to demystify the subjunctive and help you understand when the subjunctive is used and why it would be used. So with the subjunctive module happening in February, you'll be able to build your knowledge of the subjunctive and, as I say, demystify that. So we'll be demystifying the difficulties of the subjunctive in February with our module of an introduction to the subjunctive. And then finally, the final module in March is going to be looking at tricky things in Spanish. So things like learning how to use por and para, learning when to use que and cual, mastering the personal a, and looking at verbs which work the same way as gustar. Gustar, a verb I'm sure you know, me gusta la música, me gusta el español, me gusta la música española, but using other verbs that work in the same way as gustar. So again, an interesting topic there to be featured in this episode, in this module. And also looking at verbs of change in Spanish, and also your exercise, your activities, and your review at the end of the month. So that is the content of the masterclass, but it's also important to think about how all of that works and how it's all put together, because the masterclass helps you learn all this content, but in the context of looking at new vocabulary, looking at new grammar, and looking at cultural aspects. So all of the dialogues will have an element of that in them. So that is all the content of our 6 modules over the next 6 months. Let's look on and see our next question. And our next question is, what level is the masterclass? Well, you'll be familiar, I would imagine, with our Coffee Break Spanish courses that come in 4 seasons. So we've got 4 seasons, season 1, 2, 3, and 4. Season 1 focuses on absolute beginners content. Then we move on to season 2, where you're building your understanding. Season 3, you are looking at taking your Spanish that bit further and moving on from an intermediate level. And then into season 4, it's about advanced understanding. So there you're going to be focusing on an advanced level. Now, these are the main levels, the main seasons of Coffee Break Spanish. And where does the masterclass come in all this? Well, the masterclass we believe is a B1, B2 course. So it focuses on that level of Spanish that is around about the season 3 level. And therefore, moving on from that, you're able to build this content and you're building your understanding of this material in order to then go on to study season 4 of Coffee Break Spanish. To recap then, basically if you've already finished seasons 1 and 2 of Coffee Break Spanish, or if you're working on season 3, or indeed if you are looking at that kind of intermediate level in another course, then it's the perfect course for you. If you're already working in season 4 and very confident with that material from season 4, then possibly the masterclass isn't quite right for you. It's perhaps not challenging enough for you. But the masterclass is very much at that intermediate level, helping you build your skills at that level. Okay, again, if you have any questions, please post them in the comments. I'm actually just going to deal with these 2 comments just now. So let us look at a comment here from Ethna. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, When does the course start? Well, the course starts tomorrow. That is the 1st of October, and you'll get access to the first lesson tomorrow, and you'll be able to start working through then. Now, if you're not able to be around tomorrow, that's not a problem, because ultimately we release that first lesson tomorrow, and you're able to work on it when it suits you. Nicola is asking another question. I have registered for the course previously but didn't complete due to having my hands full with a newborn. Can I start again with the new cohort? Nicola, what I would suggest is if you get in touch with us over at our help desk, so if you email support@radiolingua.com, then we will get in touch with you and we'll help you sort that out. We can possibly let you into the class at a later stage depending on how much you've completed at this stage. So we'll speak to you about that via our help desk. So please do get in touch and we'll be happy to help you there. Okay, so moving on with our other questions. First of all, a very important question. How much does it cost? Well, for each month, you get access to a whole range of materials. That's 5 lessons per month with the bonus activities, the module test, the email check-ins. We check in with you by email every time a new lesson is released. And then we guarantee the feedback on the homework activities that we're sharing with you. And the course certificate at the end of the whole series, at the end of the course. And for all of this, the monthly cost is £54. So that includes VAT in the UK. If you are in another EU country, then you would pay VAT at the local rate. The cost without VAT is £45, or indeed if you're in the US or paying in US dollars, it would be $56 US monthly. So that is 6 monthly payments of that amount. It's not the kind of course that you can take for 1 month and decide, no, it's not really for me. Basically, when you commit to it, you're committing to the 6 payments, the 6 monthly payments of that amount. And that's because ultimately we employ people to support the masterclass and to assist you in the masterclass, and we have to know who those people are going to be in advance of the masterclass, and that's why we have a single payment or 6 monthly payments, and you commit to all 6 of the monthly payments. If you prefer to do it as a one-off payment, then you get 1 month free, and the overall cost is £270. That includes VAT in the UK, of course. Alternatively, it's $225 excluding VAT, or $280 if you do not pay VAT, and if you're in the US or elsewhere and want to pay in dollars. So that's the cost of the masterclass. Moving on. How do I access the masterclass? What does it look like on the inside? Well, this is where I'm going to take you into the masterclass, and we're going to have a look at what the masterclass looks like. And obviously we can't look at this new masterclass because it only starts tomorrow and the lessons aren't released yet. But I'm going to take you inside the masterclass from last year, and this will give you a feel for what the lessons entail. So let's just go in here. This is us in inside the course from last year, and you'll see that each of the lessons is available here, and you can click on the lessons and access all the materials for that lesson. So let's jump into a lesson here. So if we click on start here, then there's a little video introduction, and you may see a reference to the Facebook group. Ignore the Facebook group reference because we don't use the Facebook group for this new masterclass. So everything is done within the Coffee Break Academy. So when we go to the lesson audio, we can listen to the lesson audio. These are the dialogues that are associated with the lesson. And then we can actually go to the lesson notes and see more about this in detail. And we've got the frases hechas with the dialogues there, some vocabulary there to help us. And also some further examples and an exercise in the notes too. We also provide lesson notes in form of reference notes. So these reference notes will build up to be like a course book over the course of the lesson, and we explain everything in the lesson there. And then we provide our homework activity. So the homework activity here is, let's see your sentences featuring this particular phrase, está reventado. And then as each of the students are posting their homework, we have Marina, who was the masterclass tutor for the last class of the masterclass, who posts her feedback. And you can see that every single learner gets individual feedback there from our masterclass tutor. And if you've gone wrong, then you will be helped with the content, And if you've done a good job and not made any mistakes, then Marina, or indeed whoever is the masterclass tutor for this lesson, will be helping you with that, and she'll tell you that everything is good. I'm just going to jump ahead to another set of reference notes. This is a reference note for the preterite tense. So you can see here that our reference notes explain everything you need to know and give you examples in English so that you can compare English and Spanish, and then we list the verbs, we conjugate the verbs, and provide everything that you need to know along with irregular verbs there, and so on. So this, as I say, it kind of forms a grammar book, if you like, over this, the course book for the masterclass, and that forms the book over the course of the 6 months that you have access to it. So that's a look inside the masterclass, a quick look there to give you a feel for what it looks like if you're a student in the masterclass and you're accessing it there. Let's move on to our presentation again, and if I come back into our slides, and then we can move on to our next question. Our next question is, can I access the content on my mobile device? Absolutely, you can access the content on any device because it's all browser based. So you go into the website, into the Coffee Break Academy, and simply access the content from within your browser. You can access the audio there, the video there, and of course the lesson notes and these PDFs that we're providing. You can also download the content to your own device, and you can store that for however long you need the content. And if you are using a computer or indeed an Android device, you can use the operating system there to access the materials. If you're using an iPad or an iPhone to access the materials, then you would have to download a third-party app. The app would be called Documents, and we would give you some tips on how to use Documents in order to download the materials and use them on your device. Of course, you don't need to do that. Everything is accessible within the browser. The downloading part only refers to if you want to access the content offline and when you don't have access to the internet. Okay, moving on, another question. Have other students already completed the masterclass? Yes, indeed. This is our 6th masterclass. So over the past few years, we've had a number of students, in fact, around about 600 students go through the masterclass. And they have come out the other end feeling much more confident with their Spanish. In fact, let's look at a few comments. Melanie said, I'm finding the masterclass extremely useful and convenient. The topics are nicely targeted to the needs of my level in Spanish, and the materials and activities are well designed. I like the way the learning and challenges are delivered in doable packages that fit with a busy life. Thank you, Melanie. Muchas gracias. Elvin said, I like the regular intervals of the masterclass, which really make me want to keep up and improve my Spanish by a little practice every few days. The modules are extended enough to really dive into a subject like verbos or frases hechas, but they're short enough to keep you motivated and work your way through them easily. Again, we're trying to focus on coffee break learning. If you've got that little bit of time, then we want to give you something useful to do in that time. So thank you to Elvin there. One more. I don't know quite what happened there. I think it was possibly... Yes, so I think the name on this is wrong. Sorry about that. I'm enjoying the masterclass very much, and I'm a huge fan of all things Coffee Break Spanish. I love the fact that there is new material presented every few days. That keeps things fresh and gives me something new to work on throughout the week. Receiving timely feedback about our posts is extremely helpful and provides a great deal of additional learning. Now, when you click on the link that I've added to this video, you'll be able to go to the masterclass page, and there you'll see more testimonials from students who have completed the masterclass before. Okay, so we've got some more questions that came in over the past few days by email and on social media about the masterclass. First of all, Harry asks, do we get access to the materials after the masterclass ends? Absolutely. Basically, the masterclass is, like all our courses, part of the Coffee Break Academy. So when you log into the Coffee Break Academy, you'll see all the courses that you've purchased. So if you've not purchased any courses before, then you'll see the masterclass. But if you have purchased other courses, then you'll have them all in that same place, easily accessible, and you will be able to use your same account there for accessing the masterclass. So that makes sense. Moving on, another question from Zachary. Zachary said, I'm not ready for the masterclass yet. Will there be another class later in the year? Well, there won't actually be another masterclass this year, but we will be running this masterclass again next year. And the idea is that when we're running the masterclass, everyone's concentrating on that masterclass. So we don't have multiple classes happening at once. This class is running and starting tomorrow and will run on through to the end of March 2020, which means that there won't be another masterclass until at the very earliest April 2020. So that would be the very earliest time we would run the next masterclass. So if you feel you are at this level, then now is the time to sign up, because as I say, we're starting tomorrow. We'll start tomorrow, and from then on you will be working through the masterclass over the next 6 months. If you lose out on signing up over the next few days, then you won't be able to sign up again until the new year. As I said, until in fact well into the new year, into April at least, before we're running another masterclass. Okay, moving on. Another question from Angela this time. How long will the homework tasks take to complete in each lesson? Again, this is coffee break learning, so you are not going to be spending hours and hours doing your homework for the masterclass. We will set you a simple task and you'll be able to complete that quickly. So a few minutes, depending on how much you want to write. Each episode is going to invite you just to complete a simple task, a simple sentence or two, writing in Spanish where you're including a phrase or the expression that you've been learning in that particular lesson. So that is Angela's question answered. Moving on, we've got Wendy who asks, what happens if I'm not available on the Xth of the month? So, for example, if Wendy was going on holiday at the beginning of October, then perhaps if she was away for a week, she would miss lessons 1 and 2. However, she doesn't really miss lessons 1 and 2. Lessons 1 and 2 are published on the 1st and the 4th, but Wendy can do them whenever she wants, whenever she has time to do them. And also, if we remember that at the end of the month from the 18th onwards, that's when there's no more new lessons, and that is almost 2 weeks which are available for consolidation or indeed for catching up with the lessons you may have missed while you've been away. So if you're not available on a particular day, it shouldn't matter at all. It's perfectly possible to catch up. Okay, let us move on. And another question. Frank's asking, I am redoing season 3 at the moment. Should I do season 4 or the masterclass next? And this is a very good question, because season 4 is quite a jump from season 3. And therefore the masterclass fills that bridge. It sort of bridges between season 3 and season 4 very well. And therefore, if you do the masterclass first, it means that when you tackle season 4, the high level of language covered in season 4 will perhaps not be quite as challenging for you, because you've already built quite a solid foundation with the masterclass. So I would say if you're working on season 3 and you're thinking, should I go on to season 4 next or do the masterclass first, I would suggest do the masterclass, and then season 4 will be that bit more accessible to you when you come to do it. And just a reminder there, the masterclass is sitting around that season 3 level, so it does make sense to do it before you go on to season 4. Sumaya asks, is there a live element of the course? And that is a very interesting question. We're not including a specific live element in the masterclass, for example, speaking practice with native speakers or whatever. Indeed, there are other sites out there that do provide that opportunity to practice with native speakers. That's not something that we can include in the masterclass. Indeed, if we were to include it in the masterclass, then it would be much more expensive, because it's quite an expensive thing to run the whole scenario of having tutors that log in at various times for people to practice their speaking and so on. So that's not something that we're going to offer as part of this masterclass. However, I would say that this time round we're going to be experimenting with a few things where we're going to try some webinars, and we're going to try some group lessons and so on. So if you want to be part of these experiments, then you would definitely be well positioned to sign up for this masterclass. The live elements are not going to be key to what's happening in the masterclass. They're going to be introduced from time to time just for us to try things out and see what we could potentially include in the next round of the masterclass. But this time round it's going to be more experimental, and we will see how these go. So if you are interested in that, then consider that as an option. But there's not going to be a specific live element of this course this time round. Okay, I think we've got perhaps one more question. Yes, how do I sign up for the masterclass? Well, it is very straightforward to sign up for the masterclass. All you need to do is go to coffeebreakspanishmasterclass.com, and there you're able to sign up for this season of the masterclass, this class of the masterclass, which again starts tomorrow on the 1st of October. Now, we have had a number of questions about the masterclass, and I've tried to answer all of these in our live broadcast here. Obviously, there will be people joining this live broadcast at a later date. 6:30 on a Monday evening in the UK doesn't really work very well for people who are busy working in the US during the day on Monday afternoon or Monday morning, or indeed if you're half asleep or fully asleep, hopefully, in Australia or New Zealand. So if you come to this at a later date, then do make sure you ask our question, and we'll do our best to keep an eye on the questions both on YouTube and on Facebook, and we'll answer any questions that we receive later on. But just a reminder, the masterclass opens its doors tomorrow, so the first lesson is going out tomorrow, and everyone who's signed up for the masterclass so far will be getting their first lesson tomorrow, and thereafter the masterclass will close its doors for registration. So we're not yet sure exactly when that's going to happen. When we reach a certain number, we will be closing the doors, but it will definitely be open until tomorrow, and this therefore is your last guaranteed chance to sign up for the Coffee Break Spanish Masterclass class of October 2019. If you happen to be a French learner, then you may also be interested to know that we're also running a French Masterclass starting tomorrow. So if you haven't yet looked at the French Masterclass, then you can find out more about that at Coffee Break French Masterclass, of course. coffeebreakfrenchmasterclass.com. You'll find what you need there. Thank you for joining us today, this evening, this afternoon, this morning, wherever you are. I hope that this has been useful. I hope that the answers to the questions have answered your questions too. And if you do have any more questions, don't hesitate to get in touch. As I suggested earlier to Nicola, the best way to do that is by getting in touch with us by email. You can email team@coffeebreakacademy.com or support@radiolingua.com. Either way, you'll be able to reach us, and we will be able to answer your questions. Or indeed, send us a Facebook message and we'll be able to respond to that too. Bueno, muchísimas gracias. Espero que esto haya sido útil y que mañana estemos todos juntos en el masterclass. I hope that we see some of you tomorrow in the masterclass. Thank you very much indeed. Muchas gracias. Que tengáis un muy buen día. Y, of course, as always, happy coffee breaking. Muchas gracias.